Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll talk about the 12 things that I'll miss from Mexico, which is where I lived for 12 years, to be specific, in Cancun. I moved away a few years ago, and there's definitely a few things that I can say I miss wholeheartedly. So here we go. Number one on this list would definitely be the people. I'm not just talking about the friends that I made, but also the people that I just met and realized, how different it is from your European culture. It's a lot generally more spontaneous, often very more warm, like with strangers. I get the feeling. Um, Mexican people often will say, they have these like albures, like there's a lot of joking in certain circles, and of course, you can't group everyone in Mexico together. As a whole, there's a lot of different personalities, as is true everywhere in the world. But on average, I think I really enjoyed like hearing what people actually think. They'll more easily say something even though it might be offensive, in the sense that there's even nicknames. They call each other like gordo. You don't have to necessarily be fat, but they give you a nickname like the fat guy. So there's certain honesty and spontaneity that is not easily found in colder climates, let's say. The food, the food I really miss. I really love ceviche, guacamole, tacos. Oh man, they had these like shrimp tacos and shrimp ceviche, and damn, La Plaita in Cancun. If you ever go there, that was my favorite restaurant. It's absolutely delicious food. Number three is the freedom that you experience. Like now that I lived in Dubai for a while, I you feel a lot more observed in a way. There's cameras like every few meters when you're inside of pretty much any building. On the roads as well, there's just cameras everywhere. Everything is like closely monitored, and it's positive generally. Like I'm glad to make that trade off because you get safety, but I do miss the fact that in Cancun and Mexico, you you can generally, get away with skirting some rules from time to time, and you don't feel like everybody's like watching you and making sure that you abide by every little single rule. And that was actually a big thing during COVID, when the whole world was shut down. In Tulum, it seemed like life like it didn't exist. Life was pretty much normal, people partying. I didn't really partake to that extent, but I did appreciate that in Cancun, at least you could go outside. The parks were closed, which was kind of lame also, but um, at least you weren't locked indoors like you were in Spain, for instance. And the rules became less strict a lot faster than in many places in, say, Europe, or I believe also in the US. It was a lot more stringent for a longer time. Another thing I miss is nature. Now, in Europe, you can find pretty decent places in terms of enjoying the outdoors, but I very much miss cenotes specifically. I used to do tours, Airbnb tours to cenotes as a hobby of sorts more than anything, and you don't really find anything just like that in Europe or Belgium or Dubai. Like, and in general, there's just abundant nature, in the sense that the trees look like they're right out of Jungle Book, even in the park right outside my door. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something. The ocean, no, the beach. The beach is simply amazing in Cancun and surrounding areas. Another one would be the cheap cost of living. Now, this is going to depend, of course, with the place that you're comparing to. If you're living in the Philippines or Thailand or something, it's probably less expensive there. But as compared to Europe, and especially for things like services, it's way more affordable, of course, in Mexico, in most places at least. Having like a help around the house, for instance, like a full time cleaning lady, is just not generally something that's very common in Europe. But yeah, I do miss overall the cost of living for what I'm comparing to now, which is, for instance, Belgium and Dubai. It used to be way better in Mexico. I mean, it's going up everywhere, but still. You can check these numbers on Numbeo, by the way. It's a pretty interesting website where you can see in all categories where things are more expensive, and especially in the rent category, it's just way more expensive in Dubai. Tradition and plant medicines is one that truly was life-changing for me. I'm referring in particular to, say, plant medicines and these ceremonies, for instance, mushroom ceremonies, cacao ceremonies, ayahuasca. For me, that was truly an eye-opening experience. Like, I think differently. There's like a me before and a me after, I would say. And that's not something that I would try in the UAE. I know that it used to be legal in Belgium for a while, and then they made it illegal for some reason, even though some people needed to practice their religion, certain medicines. So it's unfortunate because I think it would change the way a lot of people think, and it would, cause less. If everybody tried this, I'm pretty sure, there'd be no wars in the world. So I'll make another video with my experience specifically with ayahuasca, since somebody asked about it. I was very eager also to share at the time. I'm not sure how the YouTube algorithm is going to treat that, so we'll see when it arrives. Partying. That is something that Cancun, of course, is famous for. I'm not too much of a party animal anymore, but in my younger days, one of the best New Year's that I had was in Playa del Carmen. Like, the whole city came out and partied in the streets. People like drinking and having fun and playing music and dancing, and I almost got arrested. But I had a lot of fun. Whereas one of the most boring New Year's Eves I've ever had, although the fireworks were spectacular, I was really disappointed when it was 2008 to 2009, and I went to see the fireworks by the Burj Khalifa. And I remember being very disappointed when after the fireworks, which is in Belgium, I was used to, then the party starting, right? And there everybody just lined up and started walking home. And I didn't prepare much. I was trying to find a party that same night. I thought it'd be like in, major cities. I expected it to be like, Brussels or Mexico. Any major city you're in, you're probably going to find a party. Not so much in Dubai. We either couldn't get into the place or they didn't have any alcohol. So I ended up just walking from one place to another and ending up trying to get the metro closed around like 1 or 2 a.m. And we hadn't found anything by then. We were just too late for the metro. When we tried to get one, it had just closed. And then we walked for another hour, and eventually I just stopped a taxi. I'd already stopped a bunch of them, but they were already full. And at a red light, I, jumped into one that already had people, and then they just said, after you take them from wherever we end up, just after that, take me home and charge me for it, because I couldn't walk anymore. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. I miss speaking Spanish. When I went to Mexico, I learned Spanish within about 6 months. I could technically learn Arabic, which is the local language of the UAE, but there, since 80% of the population is from elsewhere and has English as a first language, it's not as motivating to try and learn the local language because English is a secondary language anyway. And of course, it's a lot harder to learn Arabic coming from Dutch as a first language, or English, say. It's much harder to learn this whole new, is it called an alphabet? Their system of writing. And it's a lot more difficult, of course. It's a daunting task, going right to left instead of left to right. It's entirely different. I wouldn't expect to learn it to be fluent within 6 months to a year as I was in Mexico. And yeah, it's not as a romantic language either, of course. I don't know if I said in the intro it was going to be 12 things. I kind of ran out of things for now with the inspiration. Well, let's add one more. Culture and the variety of things and places you can see and visit, in one country, that are not, natural monuments, but maybe cultural monuments like the pyramids, the ruins in Tulum. And there's such a vastness of, maybe that I should pick that as the header for this one, is the choice, the amount of choice that you have when visiting new places. You can discover places in nature. Like when we did this trip to Chiapas, we ended up finding this amazing, absolutely stunning place where there's like hardly anyone. It was inexpensive. It seemed unexplored. Whereas I feel like in the UAE, it's a lot harder to find anything virgin. Is that the right word? Something that's not too saturated with people. Wildlife, I guess you could say, is one. In Mexico, in some places in Mexico, not everywhere, you can just go out and go spear fishing, for instance, or normal fishing. I remember that was that was a really great experience with a friend of mine who came over from Mexico City, and we took a boat out and caught some fish and then had the fish prepared right there then and there, and it was simply amazing. Some of the best fish I ever had. And now living in the UAE, I wonder if you would need some kind of permit, back to the freedom issue, but also wildlife, not just to eat it, also to appreciate it. You see coatis everywhere. You see, what's the animal I'm thinking about? The ones with the tails. You see a lot of animals, so that reminds me actually of this experience where in Tulum there's one cenote, be aware if you ever go there, which has a crocodile. Like I was swimming there with my then girlfriend, actually pushed her into the water because she didn't want to get in because it was so murky, and they had not told us about this crocodile. So we're both in there swimming, and I look and I see like this branch looking thing. So I was like, I ask her, like, is that a branch or is that a, and then as I say crocodile, she just like takes off swimming like a maniac. Salsa dancing, that would be another one. It's not like I would do it all the time, but it was, and you can do it in other places, of course, but it felt more authentic to learn it being in Mexico. Okay, I think I have 12, but just to cover my basis, if I only have 11, another one I might add is Latinas. Yeah, there you go. So that would be my list of things I'll miss from Mexico. If you are interested in more content, please check out my other videos. If you give this one a like, I'll be very thankful to you. And I hope to see you again in another video. Thank you.